Imagine walking into, like, the most cutthroat, hyper-competitive environment on Earth.
Oh yeah, just thick with tension.
Right, and realizing your greatest weapon isn't, your drive to destroy the competition, but a dusty, ancient book of poetry.
I mean, it sounds completely contradictory.
It really does. But that's the exact paradox we're exploring in today's deep dive. You know that feeling when you walk into a room, maybe it's a high-stakes board meeting or a volatile market floor?
Or even just like the first day of an intense new academic program.
Exactly. And the air is just, well, it's thick with it. The competition. Everyone is sort of sizing each other up, ready to sprint the second the starting gun goes off.
It is the absolute definition of a maddening scramble. I mean, it's a very primal instinct, right? That sudden, overwhelming urge to just outpace the person next to you.
Right.
And for a lot of people, that environment acts as a trigger for hyperperformance. They love it.
They thrive on it. But for others, it triggers complete paralysis. You look around, and everyone else seems to be a shark. They've got that fire in their eyes.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're just standing there.
Exactly. Your stomach is tied in knots, and you realize you don't even have a single drop of that competitive adrenaline in your veins. You're just, well, you're simply not wired for the fight.
We've all been there at some point, feeling like the prey in a room full of predators, just wondering how we are supposed to survive, let alone succeed, when the very idea of competing feels completely foreign and, frankly, exhausting.
That is exactly where we find our protagonist in today's deep dive. We are stepping into the incredibly high-pressure, undeniably intimidating environment of Oxford University.
Talk about a shark tank.
Right. And we're following a young man named Erasmus. Now, he was raised in a quiet, gentle world of books. He's contemplative. And right now, he's anxious, he is afraid, and he is deeply, deeply worried.
Because the competition at Oxford isn't just present, it is completely unavoidable. The legacy of the institution, the ambition of the students.
It's everywhere.
Yeah, it creates this atmosphere where you either keep up or you get crushed.
And he is looking around at his peers, recognizing that he entirely lacks the thrill, the fire in his belly to beat them. He doesn't want to destroy his classmates. He just wants to learn.
So he's stuck.
Right. Today's mission is to explore how someone like Erasmus, or you, listening right now, if you've ever felt that way,
Definitely.
how you can survive and actually thrive in a hyper-competitive world without losing your soul. We're examining two really profound poems today. Winning is not for the faint of heart and self-reliance.
Both incredible texts.
Yeah. The goal is to uncover how we can reframe competition, taking it from an external rat race against everyone else, and turning it into an internal war to master your own spirit.
What's fascinating here is how Erasmus chooses to handle this crisis of confidence. Recognizing his own lack of killer instinct, he seeks out the exact opposite of himself.
Oh, totally.
He rushes to the shop of his mentor, a man named Mr. Newton Payne, who happens to be a fearless war hero.
A World War II pilot, to be exact. The guy has seen actual combat.
Which means he intimately understands adrenaline, survival, and the mechanics of conquering fear in literal life or death situations.
Exactly.
So Erasmus walks into his mentor's shop, utterly terrified of his impending departure for Oxford, and confesses his affliction. He basically tells this seasoned veteran, I don't have the fire in my belly for it.
Right. He says he doesn't see the point or the thrill of it at all.
Yeah.
And at this point, you'd expect a certain kind of reaction, right? A pep talk.
Oh, for sure. A toughen up kid kind of spirit.
Yeah, exactly. But the story takes this incredibly ritualistic, almost cinematic turn. Mr. Newton Payne walks Erasmus over to a locked 2x2 glass box.
Huh?
He punches in a security code. And inside is this enormous, ancient-looking book. He literally makes Erasmus carefully slide the book out by pulling a small rug from underneath it.
The reverence there is just palpable. I mean, it's handled like a sacred relic, something far more valuable than just standard advice.
But wait, hold on. I have to say, a drowning kid comes to a literal war hero for survival advice. And the hero hands him like a heavy, dusty book of poetry.
It seems a bit strange.
How does that actually help him in a cutthroat environment?
Yeah.
That feels like handing a drowning person a manual on water displacement instead of throwing them a life preserver.
It seems entirely counterintuitive on the surface, I agree. But if we look at the psychology of what's actually happening, Mr. Newton Payne recognizes something crucial about his mentee.
Okay, what's that?
A tactical manual on how to be a shark assumes Erasmus actually wants to be a shark.
Oh, and he doesn't.
He really doesn't. Giving him tactics to beat the other students would be totally useless because his core values don't align with defeating other people.
Right, that makes sense.
So the book represents a cognitive reframe. He needs a literary prescription to completely redefine what winning actually means before he can even step onto the playing field.
Okay, so the mentor opens this massive book to the first poem, Winning is Not for the Faint of Heart. And the imagery right out of the gate is intensely aggressive.
Very aggressive.
It is the furthest thing from the quiet world of books Erasmus is used to.
The contrast is intentionally jarring. I mean, the poem immediately defines winning as a game of survival. It calls it a war.
Right.
It demands that you visualize yourself as a gladiator in the arena, or, a stealthy ninja warrior striking from the shadows, or a bullfighter confronting the absolute fury of the beast.
Wow, it says you have to want it so badly that it burns inside.
Yeah.
It frames every choice as life or death.
Yeah.
And just when you think this is a hyper-aggressive Wall Street-style hype-up speech about crushing the guy next to you, the poem executes a massive pivot.
A huge pivot. The text explicitly redirects all of that violent, combative energy inward.
Oh, interesting.
This war is not against the other students at Oxford. True victory, the poem reveals, requires harnessing and taming one's very own demons.
So it's an internal battle.
Yeah.
You are the gladiator, but the arena is your own mind. And the poem actually provides a highly specific internal checklist of enemies you have to conquer. It says you must annihilate the pessimists, ridicule the skeptics, render mute the excusers and naysayers, and exile the slouches.
Notice the granularity of those adversaries. We aren't just talking about generalized anxiety or broad self-doubt here.
Right, it's much more specific.
Yeah, it identifies distinct psychological personas. The slouch is that insidious part of you that wants to take the path of least resistance, kind of masquerading as the need for rest.
And the excuser is the voice that preemptively justifies your failures so you don't feel bad about quitting.
Spot on. These are the free-spirited, destructive characters that inhabit the kingdom of our minds. To win, the poem says, we must do battle within the confines of ourselves.
I just love the image of this internal kingdom. It's like you are the CEO running a company and your brain is your board of directors.
Oh, that's a great way to look at it.
Right. And half your board is currently panicking, running around with their hair on fire, and the other half is just lazy, sleeping at the conference table, coming up with excuses for why the quarterly numbers are down.
Yeah, total chaos.
But you don't burn down your own company. You fire the slouches, you mute the naysayers. But the most brilliant part of this strategy, especially for someone as anxious as Erasmus, is how it handles the fearful members of the board.
This is key.
The poem does not say to annihilate fear.
It makes very clear distinction there.
It says, calm the fearful, making them our allies. You sit those panicking board members down, you realize they are the ones actually paying attention to the risks. They see the pitfalls.
Right, they have a purpose.
Exactly. You calm them down and use their cautious energy productively.
Which fundamentally changes the objective. You aren't trying to eradicate your humanity or your vulnerability. You are curating your internal governance.
Right.
And the mechanics of how we actually achieve this alliance with our fear is explored much more deeply when the narrative shifts to the present day.
Yes. The story fast forwards to an older Professor Cromwell-Smith.
Who we learn is actually an older Erasmus, right?
Exactly. And he has just finished reading this very same poem to his university students. A student named Alice raises her hand and asks the million-dollar question.
The one we're all wondering.
Right. How do we actually identify these demons? And more importantly, how do we start to tame them?
She's demanding the leap from poetic theory to practical application. And the professor's answer offers a masterclass in psychological management.
Okay, let's break it down.
He explains that demons are our fears, our insecurities, and our unresolved conflicts. But identifying them requires brutal honesty.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You have to undergo deep introspection and ask yourself exactly what it is that is holding you back or filling you with doubt without flinching away from the answer.
Because you can't fight an enemy you refuse to look at.
Precisely. But the most vital part of his explanation is what he calls the fuel formula. Alice asks how to tame them, sort of assuming taming means destroying. The professor explicitly states that taming your demons is not about eliminating them.
Wait, so channeling energy sounds great on a motivational poster,
Yeah.
but mechanically, How does that actually work? How do you actually sit a panic attack down and make it an ally?
Well, it comes down to understanding the physiological and cognitive realities of fear. When you experience fear or anxiety, your body is flooding you with adrenaline.
Your heart rate increases, your senses sharpen.
Right. Your body is literally preparing for action. So the professor's fuel formula involves acknowledging their presence, understanding their origins, and then cognitively reframing that physical arousal.
Okay, I see.
Instead of interpreting a racing heart as a sign that you are about to fail, you interpret it as your body giving you the biological resources you need to hyper-focus.
It's like a steam engine.
Oh, I like that.
Fears the fire. If it's wild and uncontained, it just burns the whole train down. That's a panic attack.
Yes.
But if you acknowledge it, understand it, and contain it within the boiler, if you create a controlled burn, it creates the steam pressure that actually drives the wheels forward. You use the demons as fuel to propel you.
That analogy captures the mechanism perfectly. The people who are winning the internal war are not devoid of fear. I mean, being fearless is largely a myth.
Absolutely.
The winners are just highly efficient at recycling their fear into motivation. They feel the heat of the fire, they accept it's there, and they route it to the engine.
Which means you don't have to be fearless to be a winner. You just have to be incredibly resourceful with your anxiety.
Exactly.
It's a wildly encouraging approach. But that brings up a secondary problem. Let's say you do that. You contain the fire, your internal board is sorted, you've won the war in your head. Then what?
Right, what's the next step?
Do you just spend the rest of your life isolated, hyper-focused on your own internal state?
That is the exact tension the second poem addresses. If winning is not for the faint of heart is the manual for winning the internal war, the second poem Mr. Newton Payne shares addresses the aftermath.
Okay.
What do you become once that internal kingdom is conquered, and how do you interact with the external world?
So he moves on to a poem simply titled Self-Reliance.
Here, the mentor redefines the external opponent entirely. He tells Erasmus that human beings are rarely the real adversary in life.
Belly.
Yeah. True winning isn't about defeating the person sitting next to you in the lecture hall or the colleague gunning for the same promotion. It's about defeating life's obstacles.
Like what?
The seemingly insurmountable challenges, systemic hurdles, and tragedies that life inevitably throws at you.
Okay, so the poem outlines the evolution into what it calls a wholesome life warrior.
A great term.
By conquering your internal board of directors, you gain the clarity and the wisdom to become a doer and a maker. You embody self-assertiveness. You become accountable first and foremost to yourself.
It describes a state of profound internal sovereignty. You realize that your primary reliance must be on your own capabilities and moral compass, well before anyone or anything else.
But wait, doesn't this breed a kind of extreme selfishness?
How so?
Well, if I am solely focused on winning my own internal war and relying first and foremost on myself, that sounds incredibly antisocial. If everyone is just walking around as their own sovereign nation of self-reliance, how does society even function? We live in a world of interconnected systems and teams.
It's the classic tension between the individual and the collective. And another student in the modern-day classroom, Mark, brings up this exact concern.
Oh, good.
Mark asks the professor how to balance this intense self-reliance with the practical need to work within societal structures and institutions that demand conformity and cooperation.
Because you can't just be a rogue gladiator in a corporate office or a university lab.
No, you can't. The professor clarifies that self-reliance is not about rejecting systems outright, nor is it about becoming a hermit. It's about approaching those systems with sharp discernment. You use the system as a tool. You engage with it. You collaborate. But you ensure your actions consistently align with your own deeply held values, rather than letting the institution's values overwrite your own. You navigate the structure without losing your individuality.
So you're playing the game, but you aren't letting the game play you.
Exactly. And to address the concern about selfishness directly, the text reveals a pretty counterintuitive truth. Mr. Newton Payne explains to young Erasmus that relying on yourself first actually makes you infinitely stronger when it comes to serving and helping others.
Because if you aren't self-reliant, your help is probably conditional.
It often comes with strings attached, yeah. If you lack internal sovereignty, your attempts to help others are frequently driven by a codependent need for validation or a desire to be needed.
Right.
You lean on them to hold your ego up while pretending to support them. But if you are truly self-reliant, if you have tamed your own demons, when you give to others, you are giving out of strength and abundance.
That makes total sense.
You are standing firmly on your own 2 feet, which makes your capacity to support others genuinely powerful and untainted by your own insecurities.
It's the airplane oxygen mask rule taken to a psychological level.
Exactly that.
The flight attendants always tell you to secure your own mask before assisting others. If you are suffocating on your own unresolved fears and needs, your attempts to help the person next to you are going to end in disaster for both of you.
Yes, 100%.
True self-reliance is the absolute prerequisite for genuine generosity. It reframes self-reliance from an act of isolation into an act of preparation for profound, healthy connection.
It shifts the entire paradigm of ambition. You aren't building strength to dominate the room. You are building strength to withstand the storms of life and to anchor those around you when they falter.
We've traveled from the terrifying anticipation of Oxford, through the locked glass box of a WWII veteran, and into the modern-day classroom of Professor Cromwell-Smith. And to really bring this deep dive home, we have to zoom out and look at the physical reality of the professor in the exact moment he is teaching this class.
The visual contrast the author provides here is staggering.
Remember, this is a man speaking about the gladiator arena, about stealthy ninjas, about conquering mountains and drawing on an unshakable well of internal will. He is preaching absolute vitality.
But physically, he is incredibly fragile. We learn from the text that it has only been 2 weeks since the professor was found unconscious by a night security guard and rushed to the hospital.
Wow, just 2 weeks.
Yes. The students can plainly see his physical vulnerability. His head is shaved, his skin has an ashen tone.
There are dark, heavy shadows beneath his eyes. When he speaks, his voice is weak and hoarse. He has to rely heavily on a shiny wooden cane just to remain standing in front of them.
He is a man whose physical body is clearly failing him.
He is passing away.
Eh.
And yet, despite the weak voice and the failing body, the words coming out of his mouth carry what the text explicitly calls steely resolve.
Professor Cromwell-Smith is the living, breathing embodiment of these two poems. The physical world, the external obstacles, like his failing health and impending mortality, are intensely present. But his internal kingdom, that is completely conquered.
He is the wholesome life warrior in his final act.
Yeah?
He's inviting his students. He's inviting his colleagues for academic prestige or tenure.
No.
He has tamed his demons. He is using whatever energy he has left, routing the very fear of his own mortality into that steam engine we talked about, and using it as fuel to propel his final mission, which is teaching and preparing these students for the world.
It proves the central thesis of the entire text. The road to victory has absolutely nothing to do with your physical prowess, your volume, or your external dominance over others.
Right.
The true road to victory, whether you are a terrified young student stepping into Oxford for the first time, or an aging professor facing the end of his life, always starts with taming the kingdom within.
It is entirely an inside job. You don't need the fire in your belly to beat the person sitting next to you.
Yeah.
You just need enough fire to burn away your own excuses and to transform your fears into allies. Which brings us back to that boardroom in your mind. We started by talking about that visceral feeling of walking into a room full of sharks. But the reality is, the most dangerous sharks aren't sitting across the mahogany table. They are swimming in your own head.
That's a powerful thought.
So as you go about your day-to-day, and you inevitably face a moment of intense pressure or competition, I want to leave you with a provocative thought to mull over. If winning is truly an internal game of managing your own psychological board of directors,
Yeah.
which inner character is currently driving your decisions? Is the skeptic holding the gavel? Is the slouch quietly writing the agenda for your afternoon? Is the fearful one pacing the floor and making everyone else in your head panic?
That's the real question.
And what would happen to your life right now if you finally pulled them into your office for a performance review?